Welcome to my World History Notes, where I read from the book that I wrote to teach homeschoolers world history. A Bible Believer Looks at World History. You can find it on lulu.com, amazon.com, at the Bible Baptist Bookstore, or here. Just watch me here. Follow me here. It is from the point of view of a Bible believer. I'm a King James Bible believing Baptist. So if you don't agree with me on that, you're probably not going to agree with my interpretations and conclusions I've drawn. But that's okay. I'm not looking for people to agree with me. I'm just looking for you to study world history. So if you come up with your own interpretations and your own conclusions of events in history based on your own study, hey, I'm happy. Even if you tell me I'm crazy, that's good. World history, American history, the Bible, we should all, Bible believers should all be conversant in these things. So let's begin. And I'm gonna talk about some, just briefly, about some people that are important to remember in the Middle Ages. Dark Ages, they called it the medieval period, all kinds of things. These are all just terms mankind categorizes things. It may not be valid. The Dark Ages weren't dark. Were the Middle Ages middle? I mean, we talk about Rome fell in 476 AD. It did not. It didn't fall till 1453 AD. So, but we have our own way of doing things. I think we've been very Eurocentric, and that's my point in this whole thing is there's a bigger world out there. So let's study it. So I want to give you some names worthy of note, and my cat's going to wander in and out. Sorry about that. With regard to New Testament Christians living in the medieval period or the Dark Ages, and a few more Jewish names of note, so that in the event you pursue your studies further, you would have at least heard of these people. Moses ben Nachman, also known as Nachmanides and Ramaban, was a Spanish rabbi, philosopher, and biblical commentator born in Catalonia. That's the area around modern day Barcelona. In 1194, he argued that the central issue separating Christianity from Judaism was not the issue of Jesus as the Messiah, but whether or not Jesus was God, which is extremely fundamental to Christianity. This is the dividing line between the two religions, as per Nachman. Isaac Abrabenel was called the last Jewish Aristotelian, in that he followed the Greek philosopher Aristotle's line of thinking, as did the Roman Catholic Church later. He was also very influenced by Christian biblical interpretation. He was born in 1437 and believed the Messiah would arrive in 1503. He died in 1508, having seen his prophecy fail. The Jewish mystic Isaac Luria was expelled along with the rest of Jewry from Spain in 1492. He was the most famous as a believer in and follower of the Kabbalah, studying the book of Jewish mysticism called the Zohar. It is from the Kabbalah we find the origins of the Big Bang theory of the 20th century, as I talked about in the first set class I read. The similarity is too vivid to be dismissed as mere coincidence. Among the Christians of note in the period was Arnold of Brescia, who lived from 1110 to 1155 and came from northern Italy, the heart of the many Anabaptist groups. Another word or groups for divisions is sects, SECTS. He was condemned as a schismatic, someone who causes a schism or a divide resulting from controversy at the Synod of Lateran in 1139, and again at the Council of Sens in 1140. He was expelled from Italy and then from France, and there he went to Bohemia to preach, returned to Rome, inciting a riot, and was banished again as a heretic. He was hanged, his body burned, and his ashes thrown into the Tiber River. His great crime was that he was against infant baptism. He also did not believe in a church, any church, aligned with the state government. Separation of church and state, a hallmark of our Constitution, was a heresy to the medieval church, Roman Catholic Church. Girolamo Savonarola was born in 1452 and died in 1498. He was an Italian reformer from Ferrara, Italy. He entered a Dominican monastery in 1474, studying the Bible and the writings of Augustine, and could not deal with the contradictions between the two. He became a preacher in Florence and a harsh critic of the church. Pope Alexander VI offered him a cardinal's red hat, but Savonarola said the only red hat he would accept was one made out of blood. He stayed a devout Roman Catholic, however, until his death by burning at the stake after being tortured for 2 months. Henry of Lausanne and Peter of Brise, living in this late 11th century, to the early 12th, condemned baptism as a saving sacrament, the Mass, and the use of images. Henry died in prison, while Peter died at the burning stake. There were many others during this time period of note that can be found in the works of Schaff and Fox, as well as Lotzerit, and Newman. Just keep in mind that some writers estimate that there were times in medieval Europe that as many as 400 people a day. We're talking about witches, Christians, homosexuals, you name it. Anybody who was considered not part of the norm um, could be burned, put on the wheel. Now, this wasn't at all times and constant, but this was pretty regular. So it was a pretty brutal environment if you did not go along with the collective thinking that we have the same ideas today. So anyway, we'll talk about the Black Death, the Black Plague next. The British Isles. We'll go to the British Isles. We'll go to Europe again. We'll go 100 Years' War. We'll talk about England again, the papacy in the Middle Ages. I mean, we have, Western literature and architecture. We have a lot to go over this next. So I'm going to stop there and I'll talk to you about the Black Plague next. Thank you.